They said he wasn't a dog, but a curse. He stole his master's leadership and was discarded like trash. But when a cold-blooded camper named Wilder met this yin-yang beast, the world stood still. The shelter air was thick with tension the day King's former owner stormed in, his eyes wild with a mixture of terror and unbridled rage. He wasn't just returning a pet, he was retreating from a battlefield where he had been soundly defeated. He screamed that King was a monster, a curse in fur that refused to play, refused to fetch, and most terrifyingly, stood his ground with a primal growl whenever anyone dared to cross his boundaries during mealtime. The man had tried to break him, to force him into the mold of a submissive servant, but he had failed miserably. The shelter workers simply smiled, a knowing, slightly sad glint in their eyes, and whispered the truth. He's an Akita. King wasn't a monster, he was a king who had found himself in the presence of a weak subject. Physically, King was a masterpiece of nature's contrast. While most Akitas wore coats of sunset orange, King was a striking anomaly, a living yin-yang symbol. His head was a mask of midnight black, his chest a cloud of pure white, and his back a swirling storm of black and earthy brown. He sat behind those cold metal bars with the dignity of a fallen emperor, his deep, soulful eyes watching the world with a stoic indifference that chilled most people to the bone. He'd been labeled as unadoptable and too dangerous, but King didn't care. He was waiting for someone who didn't want a toy, but a partner. Then came a day that felt like a scene from a movie. The snow was falling in heavy, silent flakes when a man named Wilder pushed through the shelter doors. Wilder was a man of few words, a seasoned camper who lived for the raw beauty of the wilderness. He didn't want a dog to cuddle on a sofa, he needed a sentinel who could survive the mountain peaks. When he reached King's kennel, time seemed to fracture. Wilder didn't coo or reach out with a trembling hand. He simply stood there, meeting King's gaze with a cold, unwavering respect. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed yet, I have to say I'm a little heartbroken. Stories like this need your support. Hit that subscribe button right now, you won't regret it. Now, back to what happened next. The worker tried to warn him, explaining that King had already dethroned one leader. Wilder didn't even blink. He saw the fire in King's eyes and the iron in his spirit. "I want him," Wilder said, his voice as firm as the winter outside. The papers were signed, and as King climbed into the truck, a new era began. The transition wasn't filled with wagging tails. It was a silent negotiation between two titans. Wilder knew that King wasn't a dog you could own, but a force you had to respect. For 2 years, the silence in Wilder's truck and his remote cabin was deafening. Most people would have been terrified by a 110-pound Akita that watched your every move with calculating intelligence. But Wilder found peace in it. He never forced King to perform. He never begged for affection. He gave King the one thing no one else ever had: space. But then, something happened that changed everything during their first deep winter expedition. They were deep in the backcountry, surrounded by miles of untouched snow. King wasn't just a companion, he was a living radar. His massive paws crunched through the ice with a rhythmic power, his black masked head constantly scanning the tree line. One night, as the temperature plummeted and the wind began to howl, Wilder realized he wasn't just looking after a dog, he was being looked after by a guardian. King positioned himself at the entrance of the tent, his body a literal wall of muscle and fur against the freezing drafts. He wasn't growling at Wilder, he was guarding him against the world. The leadership race the previous owner had lost wasn't a fight for Wilder, it was a mutual pact. Wilder realized that King's aggression was actually just a demand for dignity. When King ate, Wilder stepped back, not out of fear, but out of respect for the hunter's peace. And in return, King began to offer something he had never given another human: his trust.
It started small, a soft nudge of a black nose against Wilder's hand in the middle of a trail, a quiet huff of breath in the dark of the night. What happened next left everyone speechless. On a particularly treacherous climb, Wilder slipped on a hidden patch of black ice. His heart hammered against his ribs as he felt gravity pulling him toward the edge. In a flash of black and white, King was there. He didn't bark. He didn't panic. He planted his massive frame like an oak tree and allowed Wilder to grab his thick, sturdy collar. King took the full tension of Wilder's weight, pulling him back from the brink with a strength that felt supernatural. In that moment, the hierarchy died and a brotherhood was born. They weren't master and dog, they were a pack of two, bonded by the silence of the mountains and the reality of survival.
Now, the bond between Wilder and King has become a legend among the mountain trails. Their relationship is a complex dance of boundaries and outbursts of joy. Wilder still doesn't pet King in the traditional sense. He doesn't shower him with high-pitched praise or forced affection. Instead, he lets King decide. There are hours of comfortable silence where King simply exists as a regal sentinel, watching the horizon with his sharp, intelligent eyes. But when the sun dips below the peaks and the campfire crackles, King suddenly decides it's time. He approaches Wilder with his massive head lowered, demanding a specific, rugged kind of attention. These aren't simple pats on the head. They turn into long, intense wrestling matches, boisterous games of strength that leave both of them breathless. In this rough play, their true love shines through, a raw, honest connection that needs no words. Wilder often lays awake, watching the moonlight reflect off King's unique yin-yang fur, realizing he is safe. King isn't a pet who was broken, he is a partner who chose to stay. They continue to trek through dangerous terrains, two stoic figures moving as one through the wild. King found a leader he could respect, and Wilder found a soul as wild as his own. It proves that true leadership isn't about control, it's about companionship. If this story touched your heart and you're still not subscribed, please don't wait any longer. Hit that subscribe button. What would you do in this situation? Tell me in the comments below. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these incredible stories.